Hello everyone, welcome to the Belt and Road Face-to-Face.
There is a potential to increase huge amount of electricity through alternative resources, including wind.
It's the time for clear the way for renewable energy development.
Time that this cooperation should enter into the power distribution sector as well.
Personnel training and also the facilities improvement will be in concern.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Belt and Road Face-to-Face. Our program is co-produced by China Economic Net and VSHTV Television. I'm Meng Xiaotong from China Economic Net. Today I'm pleased to be joined in our studio by Zhang Jiamei, Associate Professor at the Department of South Asian Studies of Peking University, and we also have Sheikh Muhammad Sharik from Pakistan, Vice President and Chief Representative of National Bank of Pakistan Representative Beijing Office. Let's enter the first part, hotspot. Prime Minister Imran Khan said that 60% of all energy produced in Pakistan will be clean or renewable by 2030, via video link at the Climate Ambition Summit 2020 recently. He said that the government has decided to have nature-based solution to mitigate the effects of climate change, adding that Pakistan has planned to plant 10 billion trees in the next 3 years. Besides, he mentioned that Pakistan had decided to not have any power based on coal, and Pakistan has already scrapped 2 coal power-based projects, which were supposed to produce 2,600 megawatts of energy, and replaced them with hydroelectricity. What is the status of Pakistan's clean energy industry?
The clean energy, the share of clean energy in the energy mix of Pakistan is increasing, but still fossil oil is the major source of producing electricity in Pakistan. Almost 50% of the power is generated through fossil oil, but the government is trying to promote clean energy resources. There is a potential to increase huge amount of electricity through alternative resources, including wind, solar, hydel, and the government is promoting those alternative energy sources as well. For the benefits, Pakistan is one of the most worstly affected country due to this climate change, and the contribution of Pakistan in that climate is very minimum. So I think there is a need that all the countries in the world should promote the use of renewable energy in their energy mix. Similarly, Pakistan is also following the same policy, wherein they are trying to improve the share of alternative sources in the power mix in the country by 2030, as the Prime Minister has already mentioned, that almost 60% of the energy will be generated through alternative sources. So I think it's a good step. It is not only beneficial for Pakistan, but it will also contribute to the climate change problems that the world is facing right now.
Yes, Ms. Zhang.
Yes, as far as I know that once upon a time, the Prime Minister of Pakistan once said that Pakistan have paid a heavy price for the energy crisis during the last many years, and so it's the time for clear the way for renewable energy development. And so last month, the Minister of Environmental and Climate of Pakistan met with the minister from Denmark and also from other countries to talk about the cooperation opportunities between the two countries about the renewable energy. So I think it's a time for Pakistan to reform and develop this area. And meanwhile, the cpec also play a vital role in this progress because, as we know, the well, photovoltaic power generation already completed, and also the hydro and the solar and wind power generation also ongoing and almost completed. So as you mentioned, it's not only a structural optimization for Pakistan only, but also for the whole region and for the whole world.
One more thing in it.
Yeah.
So this shift from oil to alternative sources will not only have the climate benefit, but it will also have benefit on the Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves, because Pakistan spends billions of dollars just on importing oil and produce electricity. If we shift to these alternative and cheap sources, then it can save billions of dollars that we spend on importing the oil. And second, the electricity prices will also be reduced, because oil is the most expensive source of power generation. So it will also increase the efficiency of the business community, and it will also help in improving the exports from Pakistan as well.
And the government has also issued policies which proposes to attract foreign investment via tax exemption or competitive bidding. So how do you view these measures, and what suggestion do you have for developing this clean energy industry in Pakistan?
Yes, I think at the moment these exemptions are very necessary, and because of this competitive bidding, the price, the cost per unit, cost of production is already reduced, and the government is providing tax incentives for the investors, where they can import their machinery without any import duty in Pakistan, and like they can remit their profits. 100% of their profits can be remitted without any involvement of any regulator. So these incentives are necessary to attract the foreign investors right now. But what I feel the government should also, in the longer run, the government should ask the companies to come and establish their manufacturing base inside Pakistan. That will not only reduce the cost of the products, but it can also increase the exports of Pakistan.
Yes, Ms. Zhang.
Yes, and maybe a large-scale clean electricity development will benefit Pakistan both in short-term and long-term, and both in economic development and environmental protection areas. And to sustain this development, I think the personnel training and also the facilities improvement will be in concern. And as the statistics shows that Pakistan government show their decision that they will reduce the coal-fired materials from 29% to 13% by 2030. I think it's a very good step, optimistic signal for the region, for Pakistan.
And CPEC has played a key role in Pakistan's clean energy strategy, just as Ms. Zhang mentioned. For instance, the photovoltaic and wind and energy projects are being established and connected to the grid. So how can China and Pakistan expand the cooperation in the future?
Yes, I've seen that the first phase of CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it has really helped the Pakistani business, the industrial sector. If you go back in 2014, when CPEC was started, the power shortages were costing around 1 or 1.5% of Pakistan's GDP, and that if you translate it into monetary terms, it goes in billions of dollars. And so that was one of the major reasons that was reducing or slowing the pace of Pakistan industrial growth. But once we have seen that these projects are completed, they have tremendously contributed to the development of Pakistan industrial sector and exports as well. Recently, we have seen that our textile sector is operating at 100% capacity, and now they don't have the capacity to accept any further orders. So I believe that this is one of the benefit that the Pakistan has gained because of this because of cpec. In the long run, or in order to further enhance the cooperation in the energy sector only, I would recommend that we have enough power generation capacity. Now there is a time that this cooperation should enter into the power distribution sector as well, because if we do not distribute, if we do not have the capacity to distribute the power, and we keep on producing, then it's of no use. So I think there is a time to upgrade the power distribution sector in Pakistan as well.
Ms. Zhang, what are your suggestions for expanding the cooperation between China and Pakistan in the clean energy sphere?
Okay, first, China has a great experience in these areas. China is among the top 10 makers about regarding wind turbine and solar panel such equipments, and so we can share the technology. We can train the technicians and experts through the One Belt, One Road initiative. So our goal is to build a green belt and a road to benefit about 4 billion people around this road. And also, as we know that China is expert in infrastructure construction, and so through this way we can cooperate and jointly build infrastructure constructions along the road and the belt better to support the development of green energy and clean energy. And maybe from 2 steps. The first, we can cooperate. We need the memos and cooperation with other countries, and especially for private companies, maybe risk control and such insurance companies will play important role in this process. And secondly, the second step may be through the training and sharing and technical way to construct the way together.
And one more factor is that if you look, that banks have also started the car financing. So so now the people are much more interested in getting new car.
So we will observe the social distance and make the necessary isolation. So it facilitates to get a new car for personal travel or outgoing.
Government is trying to promote the use of locally manufactured raw material.
You are watching the Belt and Road face-to-face. Let's enter the second part figure. The auto sales have jumped by 48% year-on-year in November 2020 to 14,533 units as compared to 9,834 units in the same month last year. According to GS Research, this upward trend takes cumulative growth of 5 months from July to November this fiscal year to 19% year-on-year, with total 65,998 units sold during the period, as Business Recorder reported. Data shows that the auto production and sales in the first 11 months of last fiscal year showed a sharp year-on-year decline, while the auto sales this year is on the rise. So what is the reason behind this?
The reason for decline in the last fiscal years, if you look at that, almost half of the fiscal year was under the lockdown, and everything was stopped for a while. So I think that is one of the reasons for decline in sales. And after that, when the activities are resumed, so the car, we have also seen the increased jump in car sales in Pakistan as well. And alternatively, if you and one more factor is that if you look, that banks have also started the car financing. So so now the people are much more interested in getting new car and avail the finances from the bank also. It has also contributed a lot in increasing the car sales in Pakistan.
Yes, Ms. Zhang.
Okay, and firstly, in 2020, I think the global auto market is sluggish and poor, and in transforming process, it's the backdrop for the whole market. And meanwhile, with the break and the spread of pandemic. So in the first half of the year, there's no need to go out to make a necessary travel. So there's no need to buy a new car for family. But in the second half of the year, with the resumption of the production and all the people, we can control and make the management for dealing with the pandemic. So we will observe the social distance and make the necessary isolation. So it facilitated to get a new car for personal travel or outgoing. So I think this is also a reason. Maybe this is one of the reasons to make the auto market be on rise.
Yes, that makes sense. And many consumers are concerned about the unending increase in auto prices. And the Minister for Science and Technology said the price would go down soon. So how do you view the measure on controlling the prices?
Yes, if you look in Pakistan, there are a few factors. If you analyze those, then you can predict that the that the prices will go down. One is there is a 50% reduction in the interest rates from the central bank. Before the COVID, they were around at 14%. The basic rate was 14%. Now it is at 7.5%. This has reduced the financial cost of the companies. Second, with the appreciation of Pakistani rupee, the dollar value has gone down. Now it's trading at around 160. So this is and most of the raw material that is used in car manufacturing is imported. This has also reduced the prices of this raw material in the country. And the third thing is that the government is trying to promote the use of locally manufactured raw material that for the car industry. So I think these things, if these factors are combined together, then we can see that the prices may go down in the future.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Zhang.
And my opinion is that I have a suggestion that this decision will be feasible if Pakistan cooperate with China in auto market, because from 3 point of views. Firstly, China has mature technology in manufacturing, auto manufacturing industry, and especially we have a lower cost comparing to American, European, or Japanese cars. As I have seen that in Pakistan, everywhere there runs Japanese cars, Toyota, Honda, Suzuki, and etc. And secondly, China is the biggest consumer and producer of electricity cars, and so we have the technology and low cost-effective production for the coming new cars, new energy cars. This is the trend of the world. And finally, I think China brands China brands offer money for their value. Yes, so I think we hope we can cooperate in this area.
Yes. So, Ms. Jarek, what cooperation can be done in the future between China and Pakistan in the auto sector?
Yes, if you look at the cpec, it's all about industrial cooperation, and automobile is one of the major sector that this cooperation will be in the future. And I expect that the technology the Chinese companies has if it is transferred into Pakistan, then I think and the low cost of business in Pakistan, then if they both can join together, then it will be a very win-win situation for both the countries. And and Madam Zhang rightly said, I've seen that China is one of the largest producers of electric vehicles, and if these electric vehicles are introduced in Pakistan, and Pakistan can be a very big market, so I think that there is a lot of opportunities available in this automobile industry as well. So I believe there is a great room for a further investment in this vocational training institute.
I think a policy support is a must. From the educational department or office, there should be a policy support for the middle class people and the young people in rural areas.
They are also, I always consider these students as the ambassador to improve people-to-people contact between Pakistan and China.
You are watching the Belt and Road face-to-face. Let's enter the third part, culture. Federal Minister for Education, Professional Training, National Heritage and Culture Shafkat Mahmood held a meeting with China's ambassador to Pakistan, Nongron, and discussed Pakistan-China cooperation in terms of education and vocational training recently. Federal Minister Shafkat Mahmood has said that a big number of Pakistani students are studying and researching in China, and the latter is providing scholarships generously, which speaks the stronger ties of both countries in educational sector. The minister also emphasized to set up a special working group between two countries in the fields of education and vocational training that is an important part of cpec and the culture. What is the current status of Pakistan's vocational training?
There are around 4,000 vocational training institutes located in Pakistan, and they have the capacity to accommodate around 500,000 students. But more than 1 million people are entering into the age where they need some more vocational training. So I believe there is a great room for a further investment in this vocational training institutes, and more institutes should be available, and the training should be provided in all those sectors that are in use now, like electricity, or maybe in some IT or some vocational training that is relevant to the industrial requirements of Pakistan.
Ms. Zhang.
I observed that there is still a gap in Pakistan between the high educated people and the low trained people. So there is truly a potential space for the vocational training in Pakistan. And as we talked today about the auto areas and about the new energy areas, along with these areas, regarding the traditional areas such as agriculture, medicine, infrastructure building, and even as by a new high technology, for example, biomass conversion and new energy, clean energy technology, electric power, electric energy, etc. So I think there is a potential space in Pakistan to make a big number of people to be trained vocationally.
Ms. Zhang, according to your knowledge, what are the advantages for Pakistan to develop the vocational education?
Obviously, the young generation, the young people occupy the majority in nowadays Pakistan. So they are promising and they have strength to develop their own country. I think this is the biggest advantage of Pakistan.
And how about the obstacles faced by the Pakistan in this area?
Yes, as I mentioned that there is a gap between the high-leveled educational people and educated people and the low-trained. So the there are also it forms the pluralism in this country. So if we use the human resources for the young people, we can make a better short-term and both long-term transformation of the professional training and also the development of industry in Pakistan. So I think a policy support is a must. From the educational department or office, there should be a policy support for the middle class peoples and the young people in rural areas, in towns, to be recruited to vocational schools to train have their vocational ability to fill the gap between this society.
Yeah, thank you.
So if one of the advantage that can be developed, if you've seen that the Pakistan and China are entering into the phase of industrial cooperation, where we are expecting the Chinese industries to relocate in Pakistan, especially those who are labor intensive. So I believe that if the relevant training or vocational training is provided to the youth, they can be utilized in those sectors as well. So it will provide you, especially with the cost of labor in Pakistan is almost 40% or even lower as compared to China. So I think if we provide training, vocational training to those Pakistani young generation, and when these industries are relocated in Pakistan, they can be a very good source, and that will help in improving the productivity of those companies as well.
Yes, and now there are many Pakistani students are studying in China. So what innovation have been done in their training mode in China?
I think totally it's Pakistani foreign students are part of the whole foreign students here in China. I don't think they get a special treatment or there any innovation way to treat them specially. They are studying with other foreign students together here in China. I think the first and the most important thing is their immersive living and studying here in China, and they can feel and they can understand by their own eyes and understanding of the Chinese culture and society. I think this is their biggest harvest during their studying in China, and as well as the professional studying.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I think there are more than 25,000 students studying in different universities in China, and most of the Chinese universities are ranked amongst the top in the world. And if you look at the Chinese education system, they are more research based. So I think the experience these students gain in China is very helpful, not only for them but for Pakistan also, because when they will go back, they will implement those things that they have learned during the stay in China. It will be good for the Pakistan as well. And second thing, they are also, I always consider these students as the ambassador to improve people-to-people contact between Pakistan and China. So they are, and the third thing, and most of the students who live and study here in China, they can speak Chinese as well. Now we have seen a lot of people from China traveling to Pakistan, so they can be a very good source in communicating with those Chinese officials as well.
Yes. What cooperation can be carried out in the vocational education sector between China and Pakistan?
For the traditional model, for example, the cooperation between between company and universities or schools, that's a traditional one, because one side can provide funds and the other can undertake the task, do the research works. This one could still work today, but maybe somewhat lagged behind. And online training and teaching may be the first choice. And also, because there are still habit differences and language barriers between different countries, between China and Pakistan. If we make a big population to exchange with each other, it's not feasible. But online one, it will save the cost and it will be more feasible, I think.
Yes. Thank you for watching the Belt and Road Face to Face, and thank you too for coming to our show today. See you next time.